Gender-free education is coming to Canada. Yeah! Ignore illiteracy as they are emasculated. Now, this is a very important story. Please pay some attention here. Walt Heyer is someone who experienced this, well, firsthand. He was a victim of transgender surgery and propaganda and now campaigns to make us wake up. He's in Washington. Welcome to you, my friend.
Hey, how you doing, Michael?
Well, okay, but this story, let me read this so people understand what we're talking about. This comes from the BC, British Columbia Teachers Federation website, and it has a myth and fact page. Myth: hormone blockers used to delay puberty in transgender teens are detrimental to one's health. And the answer is fact: hormone blockers are a safe way to, quote, buy time as the transgender teen decides whether to go on cross hormones. This treatment provides the often traumatic development of secondary sex characteristics that do not match the person's gender identity. Sorry, this treatment prevents those. It also prevents the need for painful and expensive surgeries to undo these changes later in life. This treatment is widely endorsed by family doctors, psychologists and other specialists involved in transgender health programs. And they intend to introduce a form of teaching in the schools. Well, what they're saying is that the doctors approve of this. That is not true. A small group of extremists true. But also they're saying to kids who may be troubled, unsure, we're all, as we grow up, it can be a very confusing time, that they may be transgendered and they should have very intrusive, dangerous medication.
Well, you know, here's the thing. There's some Dutch doctors that have been working with Kittens, I think was one of their names, and Goosen and one other one. And they've done this hormone blockers to 70 children, and they themselves say this is human experimentation. They really do not know the long-range side effects, except they do know that it's going to have some effect on the brain, muscle tissue, and bones. So, you know, this is just child abuse, just flat-out child abuse when you start taking young children who really do not know the long-term effects of what's happening when someone introduces hormone blockers to them. And, you know, Michael, that I've had the experience with this, where as a child, I thought I was a female trapped in a boy's body, and no amount of gender expression, no amount of hormone therapy, no amount of sex change surgery, which I had, can resolve the psychological issues that exist in transgenders, because it is primarily a psychological issue. It is not a hormonal issue, and they shouldn't be treating them with hormone blockers.
But well, I don't know what the situation is in the US, but in Canada, and I really do not care about the consequences, but we could even be persecuted, prosecuted for having you on TV saying this, to actually question whether there's a psychological aspect, an element, a troubling one, to being transgendered. It is on the path to being made illegal in Canada.
Well, here's the thing, Michael. In my book, Paper Genders, you know, I went out and started studying this. It is primarily a psychological issue. No one is born transgender. Even a doctor in Morocco who's done 700 surgeries says, I cannot change men to women or women to men. He said, all I can do is make their genitalia appear to be that way, but the rest is in the mind. This is a childhood development issue, and anybody who doesn't believe this should buy the book Paper Genders and study it, because it has the documentation in there that is proof positive. This is primarily a psychological problem that exists because of childhood development, not because of something that happened in the womb, Michael.
Right. Now, we're not talking here, entirely different subject, about someone's sexuality, about being gay or whatever. This is about something which is deeply troubling, and we have to have enormous compassion, and I can only imagine what you have been through. I've interviewed in Canada guys who dress as women, they've had some form of surgery, and some of their stories break your heart. But if someone who was mentally ill, for example, mutilated themselves, self-mutilation, we would reach out to them. But in this case, we seem to encourage people to pay lots of money for profound mutilation.
Well, we don't seem to have the stomach to sit down one-on-one with people and dig into their childhood and begin to examine what happened and what possibly started this transgender process. And if we did, we would discover that people were abused, people were abandoned, people had, lost a parent, or the parent was psychologically unfit themselves. There was drugs, there was alcohol. There's something that happened that started this process, and no one's exploring it. In fact, they don't want you to explore it, because if you do discover it, it sort of breaks down all of the nonsense that they've been putting out. I can tell you from my personal experience, I had what they call as a dissociative disorder. I didn't know that until after I had the surgery, and still had difficulty, and then they discovered it. We have all these young people that they're trying to treat with hormone blockers now, and it is just pure abuse of these children. I don't know if they're going to end up in their later life suffering regret like I did, or whether it's just going to end up like so many people. Michael, we've talked about this before. There's so many transgenders that end up attempting suicide, somewhere between 41 and 45%. Actually, the younger people who go through these processes have a higher attempted suicide rate than some of the later stage people in their 20s and 50s. So, if young people, we're trying to, I think we're creating now with so many things, we're creating gender anxiety in our society. People are beginning to question more and more, do I need to change gender?
Yeah. I think in years to come, we will look back on this period as a period of intense shame, what we are doing. You, sir, thank goodness you're out there. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Michael.